What a strange of colors, so the sight is something I knew. Room full of family and friends, hear the laughter or the sound is something I know. The familiar roads with my windows rolled down, oh, the smell is something I know. But you gave life sound not the way I thought. You gave life sound not the way I knew.
Hi, my name is Anna Byrons. This summer I traveled to India and I stayed in Calcutta for 2 weeks. The reason I decided to go to India was because I originally planned to go to Thailand to get ESL certification, and I decided that if I was going to travel that far, I might as well go to India because for some reason I have just always wanted to go to India. And so I planned the trip and my parents let me do it. When people ask me about my trip, I often respond with, "It was good." Sometimes I even say, "It was really good." They usually follow up with something along the lines of, "Man, that sounds amazing. I bet it was such an awesome trip." The thing is, my trip was far from our common understanding of the words amazing and awesome. It was hard and challenging. It was awesome in the sense that I found God. But just how can I try to describe all the things that I saw? My first few days in India were spent on my own. I had to find my way from the airport to the hotel and then go around exploring the city. Kolkata is by every definition of the word overwhelming. The smells, the sounds, the dirt, the chaos, and the poverty. My first few days there, I ended up falling asleep around 2 p.m. out of sheer exhaustion. I would, as a result, end up waking up around 2 a.m., wide awake. One night I found myself awake and restless, walking around my room. I remember looking out the windows and seeing countless people sleeping on the sidewalks. My room had no working light, so I was left alone in the darkness. For the first time in my life, I was left without a distraction. I had no internet, no phone, no TV. It was just me and my thoughts. I was forced to think, to look at myself and face the things that I had been hiding in my heart. I remember calling out to God, asking Him where He was. I had to wrestle with my fears and the thought of being alone in such a foreign place. After hours of praying and seeking answers, I found myself stopped by the sunrise. For the first time in my life, I understood darkness and light. I saw, despite the darkness of that night, the sun always rises. I sat praising God, understanding His faithfulness for the first time. My bathroom in the hostel was nothing like any bathroom I had ever been in. It was a giant tile room with a little faucet on one wall that filled into a 5-gallon bucket. I had to learn how to shower while scooping buckets of water over myself. After my first shower, I remember feeling pretty good about myself. I put my clothes on and walked outside with the idea that now I understood something new. I understood how the world lived and was officially a world traveler. As I was crossing the street, pumped by my experience, I glanced across. Lying on the corner was a young girl my age. She was wearing only a top, and her hair was so dirty it stood straight out. Next to her was a naked baby. She and I made eye contact, and instead of placing out her hand, she just smiled at me and repositioned her baby and went back to sleep. I instantly realized just how much I didn't know. I was upset and shaken. I remember walking back into my room and refusing to eat as I yelled at God, asking him where he was. On my 4th day there, I journeyed on the underground Indian subway to an organization called Sari Bari. This place is located in the back alleyway off of the main streets. On my way to the building, I passed countless people, all warned by the life that the city brings. I remember walking into this organization with doubt in my heart, as I had already seen so much pain on the streets leading up to it. I walked in and was instantly overwhelmed by the beauty of the women and the joy that they shone. These women were women that once worked in the red light district. Women who were abused, used, and neglected. These women were the shame of the society, yet the women I met were filled with life and laughter. I remember sitting in the room with them as they had hand-sewn the blankets, hearing them laugh as one woman shared a story. I can still remember hearing God whisper to me, "See, here I am. I'm working." Although it was easy to get overwhelmed and upset at the things I saw, I also saw God's hand at work. I remember counting down until Thailand because I just couldn't wait to have a bed and a shower. Thailand is beautiful. I was in Chiang Mai. I was in a westernized city at a university. In India, finding someone who spoke English, let alone a white person, was rare. But in Thailand, I was surrounded by classmates who were from all over, like I had a European classmate, an Australian classmate, a German classmate, and they all spoke English, and I found myself, after just experiencing India and wrestling with all of these things, I found myself surrounded by a completely secular group of people. And I found myself instantly back to those insecurities of like being afraid to say who I really was. Even though at the time I thought India meant so much more to me because it was harder, I think Thailand taught me a lot of what it means to apply what you've learned and what you've seen. Because it was like being back here, but it's still not the same. There was definitely a different element and a different culture and just as much culture shock, but it was nicer. And it's easy to view that as wrong. In the area I was at, I literally had to seek out poverty. And I had a hot shower, and I had a king-size bed, and a refrigerator in my hotel room, and a TV with 3 American channels. Like, it was easy to sit there and wonder if I was doing the right thing. There's green everywhere. It's a city, but it's green. Like, there are trees and flowers and mountains, and there are houses, but they're not smashed together. And the people are friendly, so friendly. they have these red trucks that are called songtaos, and you can hail them down, and they're usually filled with other people, and you just hop in the back of the truck and they'll take you down the road like a taxi. My first day there, I was just excited. I was so excited just to have like some kind of normalcy in my life, and I threw my bags in my room and I ran outside and I hailed a songtao, and I forgot to look at the street that I was coming from, but I didn't care, and I just told the taxi driver, I said, "Take me to a grocery store," and he understood my English, and he took me 20 minutes away to a grocery store. And I remember getting groceries, and then getting groceries, first of all. I couldn't get groceries in India. And I got groceries, and I walked outside, and I had no idea how to get back. But I wasn't even worried. And I just found one of the songtao drivers, and I said, "Big road." I just kept saying, "Big road." And they were all laughing, and they pulled out a map, and they were trying to help me figure it out. And eventually, after a few songtaos, I did find my way back home. But initially, I was really, really upset. I didn't want to come back home because I just felt shame for the way that I live, completely unaware of life outside of America, and that my normal is not the world's normal. But after being back and having to wrestle with these thoughts and wrestle with the fact that I, in all honesty, just wanted to drop out of school and go back, but understanding that that's not how I'm supposed to do it, I've actually started to realize the poverty in America. You know, when people ask me, "How was your trip?" Even Christians, they have no idea. And it's not physical poverty, but it's just such a spiritual poverty. It's easy here to have distractions, to have, if I'm woken up at 2 a.m., I can get on Facebook. I can read myself to sleep. I can watch TV until I pass out. I don't have to face myself. I don't have to deal with hard things because there's always a solution. And it was in those moments that I had to deal with myself, that I had to face those fears that I so easily distract myself from, that I found God, that I found that thing deep down inside that I just didn't understand or was searching for. He was so real. And I think it's easy here to think that we see God when things are going well. That if our families are happy, you know, if our kids make the right choices, if I'm a good daughter for my parents, then God is working. But we just don't understand. I went to church in both places. And in India, I went to church, and it was a 3-hour-long service, and it was awful. But I've never seen worship that was so real. I've never seen a pastor that could not sing or play the guitar worth a lick, but would not stop singing and playing the guitar, and people that would come up and share what God had done in their week, and were so eager to tell what God was doing in their lives. And I remember just sitting there and just feeling like this is how it should be. And then in Thailand, I went to church, and I went to a missionary church, and I remember being so upset when I left, just because there was none of that. It was a pastor who spoke about the theology that he had been studying, and new ideas and concepts of whatever. And everyone just listened and sang and laughed. Like there was no sharing, there was no real community. And these were the missionaries. In India, the Hindu religion is a very welcoming religion. So it's known for just accepting and taking things in, and not necessarily like the Christian religion would say this is right, this is wrong. Hindu, they take everything. And so what's difficult for missionaries in India is when you come in with the gospel message, they'll accept Jesus, they'll accept God, but they'll accept him just as much as they accept all of their other gods. And one of the missionaries told us that they had, in Saribari, a lot of the women will come to know Jesus more personally throughout their time working at Saribari, and they said that one of the ladies said to them, Jesus is my number one God. Instead of saying my only God, he's my number one God. And that's just kind of like the philosophy and the mindset of the people there. In Thailand, like I said, it's 94% Buddhist. So everywhere you go, you see monks. You see wats, which are the buildings that they worship their gods in. And it's a pretty closed religion. They're a lot more devoted to their religion than I would say most people I know are devoted to Christianity. The trip taught me that I'm not as strong as I thought I was by myself. And I would love to go back someday, but not necessarily just to go back and like relive it, but more so because I know the need that I saw. So my desire to go back would be just to do something about that, not necessarily because it was the best trip ever, but because it was a really hard trip, and there's a lot of need there that we don't even know about.
Lord, you waited so patiently for all this to finally hit me. 'Cause there is no weeping, there is no sorrow, 'cause you're holding me now, there's no rules to follow. I know who you are now, I'm running a different way, so